Good afternoon, Mrs. Ross. Thank you for coming in today. I understand you had some questions about your child's test scores?
Yes, it was a bit confusing.
I understand. So Jack took a general test back in March. Now, he didn't take it all at once. It was those 4 days we told you to make sure he got enough sleep and that he had a good breakfast.
Okay, I remember that.
Now, an achievement test is used to test your child's skills and knowledge for his grade level from what he has been doing in class. At the top are his demographics. It says his teacher, the school, the district, his grade level, and the date he took it. Now there's also his student ID. His student ID is a way for us to put his information into our computers without giving away his identity.
Okay, why are his scores in two different boxes?
Okay, well, the first box contains his norm reference scores, which are his scores compared to the norm group, and the second box contains his criteria reference scores, which are his scores on how well he did based on a specific skill.
Okay, what is a norm group?
A norm group is a group of like-minded students across the nation who took the test before it was released to the public, so we could have something to compare it to. So for this test, there was 4,500 students who took the test before it was released. Are you confused about anything?
I understand everything so far that you've told me, but what is the difference between basic battery and complete battery, and how is the test broken up?
Well, the test is broken up into smaller tests, and basic battery is used for administration to just see how Jack is doing in four main areas. That's going to be reading, math, listening, and spelling. While complete battery is how Jack did on all the subtests.
What's all these numbers across me? Are they good or bad?
Well, the second column is labeled the number of items, which tells us how many times on the test that each subject came up, and the raw score in the next column tells us how many times Jack got right. So for example, in total reading, there were 108 questions, and Jack got 83 correct.
I see, but then in the next column it says that he got 53.
That's right. Yes, Jack ranked in the 53rd percentile in the national percentiles. The national percentile is not an average of how Jack did. It tells us the ranking of how Jack did in the norm group. Okay. Now, if we look over here at our bell curve, we can see that Jack scored right in the middle of where the average norm did.
Okay, so he scored in the medium of where the average students did on the test. Is there any reason he could have performed better that day?
Okay, well, I wrote down how he seemed that day, and I have no concerns. However, the test does have a margin of error. The standard of error of the mean on the test is plus or minus 3 for this one, which means if he took the test over and over again within that week, he would perform within this ranking, which we can see on the percentile bands in the next column.
What does the column scaled score mean?
Okay, the scaled score, it is the raw scores transformed into the standard score, and this test scaled scores are from 200 to 800, and the median is 500, but the average score is between 400 and 600. So if we look at the total reading scaled score, it is 508. And when we look at the bell curve, it will be almost in the median, which is average in total reading.
I see. So can we move on to the bottom scores now?
Of course. Like I said before, this bottom section is the criteria reference scores, which lets us know how Jack is doing in a specific skill. Are there any subject areas you are interested in?
Yes, I would like to know how Jack is doing in reading. I'm not entirely sure on what structure analysis or phonetic analysis is.
Okay, well, like the top section, this box shows us different information in each column. The first one tells us the skill we are looking at, and the second one is labeled RS, which tells us the raw score, which is how many Jack got correct. And the third one, labeled NP, stands for number possible, which tells us how many times these types of questions were on the test. The next three columns, labeled low, mid, and high, explains how well Jack is doing in that skill.
Could you show me an example of one of the skills from what you were talking about?
Yes, so in reading vocabulary, Jack received his 26 for his raw score, and there was 36 questions possible. If we look across, he scored medium, which average. So Jack is scoring average in reading vocabulary. Now, if we looked at structured analysis, which is when you break up a word during readings to determine its meaning, like understanding when dis is in front of agree, it means to not to agree.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we look across, we can see that his raw score was 10 and the number possible was 10, so Jack scored high in this area.
Okay.
And phonetic analysis is understanding that words are pronounced with a certain sound, such as the B in baseball is B sound, not B sound. And here we can see that his scores were 6, the raw, the number possible, was 11, and that is low for that subject.
I see now. Could we go over some of Jack's stronger scores and lower scores?
Of course. With us going over this, it will help us know some of the areas Jack needs to improve in and some of the subjects he's doing well in. Let's go ahead and take a look at his scores. Well, one of his stronger scores is in language, subtests, sentence structures. His raw score was 10, and the number possible to get was 10, so he got 100% correct there.
That is really good to know, but what did he have to do in that subtest?
Well, there are a couple of sentence structures, but we only went over 2 in class. Okay, so for example, the first sentence structure we went over was simple sentences. So Jack wrote, in his portfolio, he wrote, "We like pizza." And the other sentence structure we went over was compound sentences.
Okay.
And Jack wrote, "We like pizza and spaghetti." So on the test, they would have given him examples like these 2 types of sentences, and Jack would have just had to label which ones they were.
That is interesting to know, and I'm glad he was able to understand that. Is there another subtest that he was stronger in?
Yes, there is. Another subtest he was stronger in was life science. His raw score there was 7, and the number possible to get was 7. So again, he got 100% correct.
What were the type of questions for that one?
For example, many of our life science that we talked about in class were plants and fish and their biology. Okay, so if we look again at his work, we can see that he had to draw a picture of a plant and label the roots, the leaves, the stems, and even where the seed was before the plant grew. And another one, he drew a fish and was able to label where the fins were and explain what they did for the fish. And in the test, they would have given him pictures just like this, and he would have to label the picture correctly with words and was given in time to explain what each one does.
It's all good to hear, but what should we be working on at home?
Okay, well it shows that Jack scored low in measurement, and we have been going over in class. Here are some more examples. Okay, now it seems Jack is getting confused with where to start. Instead of starting at 0, it looks like he's starting at the edge of the ruler. So if you could practice measuring some household objects and being explicit about where to begin and why, it could be a lot of fun.
Okay, how do you know it was low?
Okay, well his raw score is 5 and the number possible to get was 8.
Okay, I understand that now, thank you. We'll make sure to practice at home, no problem. Is there anything else?
Yes. In history, Jack also performed low. He got a 4 out of 6 on this test. Now we did go over some activities of history in class, like our gallery walk, where the students researched a founding father and created a poster with facts about him. And Jack did well. Jack actually did really well in a lot of the history assignments we did, so I don't really agree with his scores. However, I think if you read more nonfiction books about the founding fathers, the presidents, he could be working on 2 skills at once.
That's really great. I will definitely pick up some books from our library. How do you think Jack is doing?
I definitely feel like Jack is heading in the right direction. We can see now from his scores and past work what needs to be done, but also what he was doing really well in, like here. Under listening vocabulary, Jack received a raw score of 16 with the number possible of 18, which is high.
What is listening vocabulary?
Listening vocabulary, for example, is understanding what a circle is if I tell him to circle the number 1. Okay? And if we look here in his math and science journals, we can see that he is following directions such as numbering each page.
Okay. What else?
Oh, and also having a table of contents.
This was so much information. I don't know if I remember all of this.
Well, if you need any help at all you have to do is contact me and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. But just in case, here's a handout for you explaining how to read Jack's scores. Okay?
Thank you so much for your help. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, you too.